Hello, how are you?
She had no date, no friends, and was sitting alone at the table until someone unexpectedly sat down beside her. But he wasn't just any man, he was the Mafia boss.
Welcome to my library. I'm Lena, and our story is just beginning.
Chapter 1: The Invisible Guest.
I don't belong here.
There's something oddly peaceful about being completely alone in a room full of 200 people. I discovered this about 15 minutes ago, standing in the corner of what might be the most beautiful wedding venue I've ever seen. All soft lighting and silk draping and flowers that smell like they were flown in from somewhere exotic just this morning. And I've realized that when you're not trying to belong, you can actually just observe. And people watching at rich weddings is honestly premium entertainment. The venue is stunning, the kind of place you see in magazines and think, that can't be real. Except it is real, and I'm standing in it holding champagne. I'm nursing slowly because it's actually good, and I might as well enjoy something about tonight. I'm here because my cousin managed to marry into a family that makes my relatives look like we shop at discount stores, which we do, but that's beside the point. I watch couples glide past in their designer everything, everyone moving like they've rehearsed this, like they know exactly where to stand and who to talk to and how to hold their champagne glasses at the perfect angle. And I'm fascinated by it, by the choreography of wealth and connection. It's like watching a ballet, except everyone's pretending they're not performing. The ceremony was beautiful in that way that makes you hold your breath a little. My cousin looked genuinely happy, which was nice to see. Her new husband looked at her like she hung the moon, and I sat in the back row actually enjoying the sincerity of it, even if everything around it felt designed by a luxury wedding magazine. Now we're at the reception, which is somehow even more elaborate, and I've perfected the art of looking engaged while actually planning my escape route. I give it another hour before I can slip away without seeming rude. Maybe less if I'm lucky. Terrible speech, wasn't it? The voice comes from directly beside me, low and accented with something that sounds Eastern European, and I turn to find a man I definitely didn't hear approach now occupying the space next to me like he's been there all along. He's tall, easily over 6 feet, with dark hair styled with just enough precision to look intentional, and eyes that are such a pale gray they're almost unsettling. He's wearing a suit that fits him like it was made specifically for his body, perfectly tailored to shoulders that suggest he's not just rich, but also dangerous. And there's something about the way he stands, completely still but radiating controlled power, that makes every instinct I have scream that this man is not safe. "I'm sorry?" I manage, because my brain is still processing the fact that someone is actually talking to me. "The best man's speech." He gestures toward the microphone where said best man is still rambling about college adventures that probably shouldn't be shared in mixed company. Terrible. He's been talking for 8 minutes about things no one cares about. Someone should stop him. I glance back at the best man, then at this stranger, and something reckless in me decides to be honest. I stopped listening after minute 3. The corner of his mouth twitches. Might be amusement. Smart. He doesn't introduce himself, doesn't ask my name, just stands there next to me like we've made some kind of silent agreement to endure this together, and I notice something strange happening around us. People are looking, not obviously, but those sideways glances that people think are subtle but really aren't, and the whispers start almost immediately. "Do you always just appear next to random women at weddings?" I ask, because the silence is getting heavy and I need to know if I should be concerned. "No," he says simply. "Usually, I avoid them entirely." "Weddings or women?" "Both." There's definitely amusement in his voice now, but today I'm making an exception. "Lucky me." "Yes," he agrees, and something about the way he says it makes it sound less like a joke and more like a statement of fact. "You are." I should probably be offended by the arrogance, should definitely be more cautious about engaging with a stranger who radiates danger like cologne. But instead, I find myself intrigued, because most men at events like this either ignore me completely or approach with transparent intentions. And this man is doing neither. He's just standing here, existing in my space, and somehow making it feel like he's doing me a favor. "I'm Roman," he says after a moment, still not looking at me. His eyes are scanning the room with the kind of focus that suggests he's cataloging every exit and potential threat out of habit. "L, he repeats, and something about my name and his accent does things to my nervous system that I'm absolutely not ready to examine. "You're related to the bride?" "Cousin." distant enough that I could have skipped this without causing offense, close enough that skipping would have been noticed and commented on for the next 5 family gatherings. Ah, there's understanding in that single syllable. Obligation, attendance. Is there any other kind? No. He glances at me for the first time since sitting down, and the full force of those pale eyes is almost physical, but most people pretend there is. The best man finally finishes his speech to polite applause, and the DJ starts playing something that's probably supposed to be romantic but sounds generic. Couples drift toward the dance floor, and I'm suddenly very aware that Roman hasn't moved, hasn't made any indication that he's planning to move. He's just staying here next to me, and the whispers around us are getting louder. You're making people nervous, I observe. Good. Why good? He turns to face me fully now, and I realize he's even more imposing up close. There's a scar along his jaw that somehow makes him more attractive instead of less, and his eyes hold the kind of intelligence that suggests he's already figured out more about me than I've said out loud. Because nervous people leave you alone, he says, and I have no interest in being interrupted. Interrupted from what? This. He gestures between us. Whatever this is. My heart does something complicated in my chest. You don't even know me? No, he agrees. But I'd like to. You've been standing here for 30 minutes looking like you'd rather be anywhere else, making observations about everyone around you with this expression that suggests you find all of this faintly ridiculous, and not once have you tried to network or impress anyone or do any of the things people usually do at weddings like this. You've been watching me for 30 minutes? Yes, the directness of it should be creepy, should send me running for the exit, but instead it's doing the opposite, making me feel seen in a way I haven't been in a very long time. That's a little stalkerish. Perhaps. He doesn't sound remotely apologetic. But you noticed me too. I start to protest, then stop. Because he's right. I did notice him earlier, during the ceremony, sitting 3 rows ahead of me, the only person in the entire venue who looked as bored as I felt. And I'd wondered who he was, what he was doing here, why someone who clearly didn't want to be at a wedding would bother attending. See? There's satisfaction in his voice. We're both observers, both here because we have to be, both pretending we're not counting the minutes until we can leave. The difference is, I'm not pretending anymore. And what are you doing instead? Sitting next to the most interesting person in this room. He says it like it's obvious, like there's no other possible answer, and hoping you'll decide I'm worth talking to. I almost laugh, because this entire conversation is surreal. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. Roman shifts slightly closer. Not enough to be inappropriate, but enough that I can smell his cologne. Something expensive and woodsy that makes my head spin slightly. I know you're intelligent, sarcastic, not impressed by wealth or status, and currently wondering if I'm dangerous. Are you? Yes, no hesitation, but not to you. The certainty in his voice should not be as attractive as it is. That's not reassuring. It wasn't meant to be reassuring, he says. It was meant to be honest. I don't do games, Elle. I don't do pretense or careful dancing around what I want. I saw you, I'm interested, and I'm making that clear. My mouth has gone completely dry. Just like that, around us, I can feel more eyes turning our way, more whispers starting, and I realize that whatever is happening here, it's becoming public. This isn't a quiet conversation anymore. It's a statement, and everyone in this room is trying to figure out what it means. People are staring, I say quietly. Let them. They're going to talk. They're already talking. Roman's voice is calm, unbothered. The question is whether you care. Do I? I should care. Should be worried about what people think, about the speculation and gossip that's definitely going to reach my cousin. But looking at Roman, at this dangerous, interesting man who chose to sit next to me out of everyone here, I find that I don't care at all. I should probably go, I hear myself say, even though it's the last thing I actually want. Should you? Roman's eyes hold mine. Or are you just used to leaving before anyone can decide you don't belong? The accuracy of that statement steals my breath, and I realize he's seen through every defense I have in less than an hour. You don't know me well enough to say that. Maybe not, he agrees, but I'd like to. Stay, Elle, at least until the cake is cut. Give me that much time to convince you I'm worth the risk of whatever happens next. It sounds too good to be true, which means it probably is, but I'm tired of being invisible. Tired of standing alone at events where I don't belong. And if this beautiful, dangerous man wants to see me, wants to know me, then maybe just this once I'll let myself stay. Until the cake, I say softly. Roman's smile is slow and devastating. Good. He doesn't move from beside me for the rest of the reception, doesn't dance, doesn't mingle, just stands there like a sentinel. And every time someone tries to approach me with thinly veiled curiosity or worse intentions, one look from him sends them away, and I realize something I've never experienced before. I didn't ask for protection, but somehow I'm receiving it anyway. And the most surprising part is I don't want him to stop. Chapter 2. The Deliberate Choice.
Why me?
Why me?
The thing about Roman is that nothing he does feels accidental. I realized this about 20 minutes after agreeing to stay until the cake, watching the way he's positioned himself, not just next to me, but slightly angled so that anyone approaching would have to go through him first. And it's subtle enough that most people wouldn't catch it, but I do, because I've spent my entire life reading body language to figure out where I stand in rooms I don't quite belong in. "You're doing it again," Roman says without looking at me. His eyes are tracking someone across the room. Some older man in an expensive suit who started walking our direction but changed course the moment he caught Roman's gaze. "Doing what?" "That thing with your fingers." He glances down at my hand, where I'm unconsciously tracing patterns on my champagne glass, small circles and figure eights that I don't even realize I'm making until he points it out. "You've been doing it since I sat down. It's how I knew you were nervous." I stop immediately, feeling caught. "I'm not nervous." "You are." There's amusement in his voice. "But not of me. You're nervous about all of this, the attention, the whispers, the fact that people are trying to figure out who you are and why I'm sitting with you instead of literally anyone else in this room." He's not wrong. The whispers have gotten louder in the past 20 minutes. I can feel eyes on us constantly now, and I've counted at least 5 people who've pulled out their phones to presumably text someone about what they're witnessing. "Does that bother you?" I ask, "being the subject of gossip?" "No." Roman takes a sip of his drink. Some amber liquor that looks expensive. "I'm always the subject of gossip. It comes with the territory. But usually I'm alone when people talk. This is the first time in years I've given them something interesting to speculate about. And I'm the interesting thing?" "You're the only interesting thing," he corrects, finally turning to look at me fully. "Everyone else here is predictable. I can tell you exactly what they'll say, who they'll talk to, what alliances they're trying to form. But you're unreadable. And that's rare." I almost laugh. "I'm really not that complicated." "No?" Roman shifts his position, angles himself even more toward me, and suddenly the space between us feels smaller, more intimate. "Then tell me why you do that thing with your fingers when you're thinking. Why you've been watching the exit every few minutes like you're planning an escape route. Why you flinched when that woman in the red dress laughed too loud. Small things, barely noticeable, but they tell me you're not comfortable here." My heart is beating faster because he's right about all of it, and the fact that he noticed, that he's been paying that much attention, is both flattering and slightly terrifying. Maybe I just don't like weddings. "You liked the ceremony," he says with certainty. "I watched you. You smiled during the vows, real smile, not the polite one you've been using since the reception started, so it's not weddings you dislike. It's this part, the performance, the socializing, the being on display. You're very observant." "I'm very interested," Roman corrects. "There's a difference. I don't pay attention to everyone like this, Elle. Just you." The way he says my name, with that slight accent that turns the single syllable into something almost exotic, does things to my nervous system that I'm trying very hard to ignore. "Why?" The question comes out more vulnerable than I intended. "You don't know me. You could be talking to literally anyone here, people who actually belong in your world, and instead, you're sitting with someone who's clearly out of place." "That's exactly why." Roman's voice drops lower. "Because you don't belong here. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're not networking or social climbing or doing any of the things everyone else is doing. You're just existing, watching, and being completely honest about finding all of this slightly absurd." "You think I'm judging everyone?" "No," he shakes his head. "I think you're understanding everyone. And that's different. When that couple argued near the bar, you didn't look scandalized. You looked sympathetic. When the bride's mother started crying during the father-daughter dance, you smiled like you got it. You're not judging. You're just seeing people clearly. And most people in rooms like this work very hard to not be seen clearly." I don't know what to say to that, because he's describing something I didn't even know I was doing. And the accuracy of it is unsettling. "And that interests you?" "Everything about you interests me." Roman says it so matter-of-factly, like it's the most obvious thing in the world. The way you trace patterns when you're thinking. The way you're currently deciding whether to trust me or make an excuse and leave. The way you're trying to figure out who I am without asking directly because you don't want to seem curious, even though you obviously are. I'm not, I start, then stop, because of course I'm curious. Okay, fine, I'm curious. You show up, sit next to me without asking, somehow make an entire room of people nervous just by existing, and act like this is all perfectly normal. So yes, I'd like to know who you are. Ask. The simplicity of it throws me. What? Ask me who I am? Roman's eyes hold mine. Ask me anything you want to know. I told you I don't do games, Elle. I mean it. So if you want to know something, just ask. I take a breath, decide to be direct. Are you dangerous? Yes. Should I be afraid of you? No. Why not? Because I've decided you're important. He says it like it's that simple. And I don't hurt people who are important to me. We just met. Doesn't matter. Roman's voice is absolutely certain. Sometimes you know immediately, and I knew the moment I saw you standing alone watching everything with those intelligent eyes trying to be invisible, but somehow being the most visible person in the room, at least to me. My mouth has gone dry, and I take a sip of champagne to buy time, to process what he's saying, because this is insane. We've been talking for maybe 40 minutes, and he's acting like he's already made some kind of decision about me, about us, and I don't know whether to be flattered or concerned. You're doing it again, Roman observes. What? The finger thing. He reaches out slowly, giving me time to pull away if I want, and covers my hand with his, stilling the patterns I was unconsciously tracing. You don't have to be nervous, Ella. Not with me. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to push for more than you want to give. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy your company for as long as you'll let me. His hand is warm, his touch gentle despite the obvious strength in his fingers, and I should pull away, should maintain some kind of boundary. But I don't, because for the first time all night, I feel like I can breathe properly. People are really staring now, I say quietly, not pulling my hand away. Let them. They're going to think we're together. Good. There's satisfaction in his voice. Saves me the trouble of explaining to the 3 men who've been working up the courage to approach you that you're not available. I look around and realize he's right. There are at least 3 guys who keep glancing our way, clearly wanting to come over but being deterred by Roman's presence. I didn't notice. I know. Roman's thumb brushes across my knuckles, a small gesture that sends electricity up my arm. That's another thing I like about you. You're completely unaware of your effect on people. You think you're invisible, but you're not. You're just choosing not to see the attention you get. Maybe I don't want the attention. Then you definitely don't want those 3. Roman's voice has an edge now. Trust me, their interest isn't the kind you'd appreciate. There's something protective in his tone that I shouldn't find attractive, but absolutely do. And the terrifying part is I like it, like having someone pay attention to who's looking at me, who's approaching, like having someone care enough to position himself between me and potential problems. So, what kind of interest is yours? I ask, because I need to know what I'm getting into here. Roman is quiet for a moment, his thumb still tracing small patterns on my hand. Then he looks at me with those pale gray eyes and speaks with devastating honesty. The kind that means I noticed you before I even sat down. Watched you for the entire ceremony trying to figure out what made you different. Spent the last 40 minutes learning your tells and your patterns and the way you see the world. And I'm already thinking about how to convince you to let me keep doing this. Keep learning you. My heart is pounding so hard I'm sure he can feel it. That's intense, he supplies. Yes, I told you I don't do games. I see something I want. I'm direct about it, and I want to know you, Elle. Want to understand what makes you trace those patterns when you think, want to be the person who makes you forget to plan escape routes because you actually want to stay? You're very sure of yourself. No. Roman's voice softens slightly. I'm very sure of you, of the fact that you're worth the risk of being this direct, of possibly making a fool of myself, of giving people something to talk about for the next 6 months. Because 40 minutes with you has been more interesting than the last year of carefully constructed interactions with people who bore me. I should probably say something sophisticated, something that matches the intensity of what he just said, but all I can manage is, I still don't really know who you are. Roman smiles, slow and slightly dangerous. Then let me buy you dinner after this. Let me explain why people are nervous, why they're whispering, why your cousin's new husband looked vaguely panicked when he saw me sitting with you. And after I tell you everything, you can decide if you still want this, want me, or if you'd rather go back to being invisible. And if I choose invisible, then I'll respect that. he says, and I believe him. But I'll be disappointed because I think you're tired of being invisible, Elle. Tired of watching from the corners, and maybe, just maybe, you want someone to see you. He's right, and the fact that he knows it, that he can read me this well after less than an hour, should be terrifying. But instead, it feels like relief, like finally someone understands. The DJ announces the cake cutting, and I realize our agreed-upon time limit is approaching. Roman will have to let me go soon if I want to leave, but looking at him, at the way he's holding my hand like it's something precious, at the genuine interest in his eyes, I find that leaving is the last thing I want to do. Dinner? I hear myself say. You explain everything, and then I decide if this is something I want to pursue. Roman's smile is devastating, genuine pleasure lighting his eyes. Deal? But just dinner, I add, needing some kind of boundary. I don't even know your last name. Volkov, he says. Roman Volkov, and I'll tell you everything else over dinner. No secrets, no games, just honesty. Volkov. Even I know that name, have heard it whispered at family gatherings with a mixture of respect and fear, and suddenly the nervous glances, the whispers, the way people have been giving us a wide berth all make perfect sense. Yes, Roman cuts me off gently, but that's a conversation for dinner, when I can explain properly, when you can ask all the questions I know you have, for now. Just know that I meant what I said. I'm dangerous, but not to you. Never to you. He doesn't let go of my hand for the rest of the reception, and I don't ask him to. Chapter 3, Dangerous Laughter.
You're impassable.
The cake-cutting ceremony is a production worthy of a Broadway show. I watch as my cousin and her new husband pose with the knife for approximately 47 photos from 7 different angles, the photographer circling them like a wildlife documentarian, capturing rare species in their natural habitat, and I feel Roman's chest vibrate slightly against my shoulder, where he's standing just behind me now, close enough that I can feel the warmth of him. Is he laughing? I ask quietly, not turning around. No, Roman's voice is low, amused, but it's a near thing. How long do you think they rehearsed that smile? Which one? The "we're so in love" smile, or the "please God let this photo shoot and smile"? This time he does laugh, quiet and genuine, and I feel it more than hear it, a rumble that seems to come from deep in his chest, and when I glance back at him, his eyes are bright with something that looks almost like surprise. "Your trouble," he says, but there's no accusation in it, just appreciation. "I'm observant." "Your trouble," he repeats, his hand finding the small of my back, a possessive gesture that should probably bother me but doesn't, and I'm starting to think that's exactly what I need. The cake is finally cut to enthusiastic applause, and servers appear with slices on delicate china plates. The cake itself is a work of art, 6 tiers of what I'm guessing is fondant and sugar flowers and architectural achievement, and I wonder idly if anyone will actually enjoy eating it, or if it's just for show. "Want to bet it's dry?" Roman murmurs near my ear, and the combination of his breath and his words makes me shiver. That's a terrible bet. Why? Because wedding cake is always dry. I turn to face him, have to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. It's like a law of physics. The more expensive the wedding, the drier the cake. I think there's an inverse relationship between cost and actual edibility. Roman's smile is slow and dangerous and does absolutely devastating things to my pulse. Test the theory? Before I can respond, a server appears with 2 plates, offers them with a practiced smile, and disappears into the crowd. Roman takes both plates, hands me one, and I realize we're about to eat cake together, like this is a normal date instead of whatever this actually is. "On 3, he suggests. "You're making this into a scientific experiment? You started it with the physics comment?" "Fair point." I lift my fork. 1, 2, 3. We both take a bite simultaneously, and I have to suppress a grimace because yes, it's absolutely as dry as predicted, possibly drier. It's like eating sweetened sawdust held together with regret and expensive frosting. Roman makes a sound that might be disgust, swallows with visible effort, and sets his plate down on the nearest table like it personally offended him. "That was criminal. I warned you. You said it would be dry. You didn't say it would be a hate crime against taste buds." He's looking at the cake like he's considering having whoever made it arrested. "How much do you think they paid for that?" "Thousands, probably." "Thousands," he repeats, shaking his head. "For something that tastes like disappointment wrapped in sugar?" This is why I don't go to weddings. Everyone pretends everything is perfect when really it's all just expensive and uncomfortable and vaguely disappointing. I laugh, can't help it, because he's saying exactly what I've been thinking all night, but with the kind of blunt honesty that most people wouldn't dare voice out loud. You really hate weddings. I hate pretending, Roman corrects, his eyes finding mine again. I hate watching people perform happiness instead of feeling it. Hate the forced smiles and the scripted toasts and the fact that everyone here is calculating who they need to talk to instead of who they want to talk to. Present company excluded. Present company especially excluded. He says it with such certainty that my breath catches. You're the only person here who isn't performing, Elle. You're just watching, seeing, being honest about finding all of this ridiculous. And that's rare enough that I'd sit through 1,000 dry cakes just to keep talking to you. The compliment hits me harder than it should, and I have to look away, take a sip of champagne to cover the fact that I don't know how to respond to that level of directness. You're doing it again, I say, needing to deflect. Doing what? Saying things that are too honest, too direct. Most people don't operate like this. I'm not most people. Roman's hand returns to my back, and I'm starting to realize this is just where it lives now. A constant point of contact that he maintains like he needs to make sure I'm still here. And neither are you, so why would we talk to each other like we're most people? He has a point, but before I can say so, a woman in a dress that probably costs more than my education approaches with the kind of smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Roman, she says, her voice saccharine sweet. I didn't know you'd be here tonight. Anna, Roman's tone is polite but cool. The warmth he's been showing me completely absent. Neither did I until this afternoon. Anna's eyes flick to me, assessing, calculating, clearly trying to figure out who I am and why I'm standing so close to Roman. And who's your friend? Ella, I introduce myself before Roman can, because I'm not going to let this woman treat me like I'm invisible just because she doesn't know my name. Elle, Anna repeats, like she's testing how it sounds. Are you family of the bride? Cousin. How nice. But her tone suggests she thinks it's anything but. And how do you know Roman? We just met, Roman answers before I can, his voice carrying an edge now. Was there something you needed, Anna? The dismissal is clear, and Anna's smile tightens, but she recovers quickly. Just being friendly? You know how it is at these things. Everyone talking to everyone. Not everyone, Roman says pointedly. Anna's eyes narrow slightly. Then she forces another smile and drifts away, and I can practically feel the gossip forming in her wake. Friend of yours? I ask once she's out of earshot. Business associate's wife. Roman's hand tightens slightly on my back. And someone who's about to learn that interrupting me is a bad strategic move. You didn't have to be so cold to her. Yes, I did. He looks down at me, and there's something fierce in his expression. She was calculating, trying to figure out if you were important enough to be polite to, or if she could dismiss you, and I don't tolerate people dismissing you. I can handle myself. I know you can, Roman says, but you shouldn't have to. Not here. Not with me standing next to you. Anyone who wants to speak to you goes through me first, and if they can't be respectful, they don't get access. It's possessive and probably overprotective, and I should definitely push back against it, but instead I find myself asking, why? Why what? Why do you care if people are respectful to me? We just met. I'm nobody important. I'm just your cousin's random +0 at a wedding. You're not nobody. Roman's voice drops lower, more intense. You're the most interesting person I've met in years, and if people can't see that, if they want to judge you based on whether you belong in their little circles, then they don't deserve to talk to you at all. My heart is doing that complicated thing again, and I need to change the subject before I do something stupid like kiss him in the middle of my cousin's reception. So, that's your play? Intimidate everyone into being nice to me? If necessary, he says, completely serious, though most people are smart enough to take the hint after one look. Anna's just slow. I laugh despite myself. You're ridiculous. I'm effective, he counters. There's a difference, and you're smiling. So clearly, my ridiculous methods are working. I'm smiling because you look so serious about protecting me from social awkwardness. It's not just social awkwardness. Roman's expression shifts, becomes more serious. It's about respect, Elle. You deserve to be treated with respect. And anyone who can't manage that basic courtesy doesn't get to be in your space. That's not negotiable. The intensity in his voice steals my breath, and I realize this isn't just about tonight. This is how he operates, how he views the world, in clear hierarchies of who matters and who doesn't, and somehow, impossibly, I've ended up in the category of people who matter. You're very black and white about things, I observe. Yes? No hesitation. Life's too short to waste time on people who don't add value. I learned that a long time ago. You either matter or you don't, and the people who matter get everything. The people who don't get nothing. And I matter? You matter. He says it like it's the most obvious thing in the world. You mattered from the moment I saw you standing alone making observations about dry cake and forced smiles. You mattered when you agreed to stay until the cake cutting, even though you wanted to leave. You matter now, standing here letting me hold you like I have any right to, and you'll matter tomorrow when I take you to dinner and tell you everything you want to know. I should probably say something profound, should match the intensity of what he's offering, but all I can manage is, you really don't do things halfway, do you? No. Roman's smile is slow and heated. I really don't. When I decide something is worth my time, I commit completely. No half measures, no casual interest, all in or not at all. And Ella, I'm all in with you. The music shifts to something slower. Couples drift back to the dance floor, and Roman is looking at me like he's waiting for something, like he's giving me a choice. Are you going to ask me to dance? I hear myself say. Do you want me to? That's not an answer. Neither is that, he counters, but there's amusement in his eyes now. Fine. Yes, I want to ask you to dance, but I'm also aware that dancing with me will make this even more public, will give people even more to talk about, so I'm letting you decide if you're ready for that. I should say no, should maintain some distance, should remember that I barely know this man, and dancing with him will seal whatever speculation is already happening, but looking at Roman, at the way he's watching me with patient intensity, I find that I don't care about any of that. Yes, I say simply. Roman's smile is worth every whisper that's about to follow. Then dance with me. He takes my hand and leads me onto the floor, his other hand finding my waist with confidence that suggests he's done this before. And suddenly we're moving together to music. I'm not even hearing because all my focus is on the man holding me, on the way his hand splays possessively across my back, on the heat of him against me. You're good at this, I observe, because I need to say something before I forget how to breathe. My mother insisted I learn. Roman's voice is close to my ear now. Said a man who couldn't dance properly was a man who couldn't be trusted. Something about needing to know how to lead and follow in equal measure. Smart woman. She was. There's something soft in his voice that wasn't there before. She would have liked you, would have appreciated the way you see through all the performance, would have said you had good instincts. Would have. She passed 5 years ago. Roman says it matter-of-factly, but I can hear the grief underneath. Cancer quick and brutal. She was here one day and gone the next. I'm sorry. Don't be. His hand tightens on my waist. She lived exactly how she wanted, said exactly what she thought, and didn't waste time on people who bored her. You remind me of her, actually. Same sharp observation, same refusal to pretend. The comparison should feel like pressure, but instead it feels like a gift, like he's sharing something precious. Thank you. For what? For telling me that. For sharing her with me, even though we just met. Roman pulls back enough to look at me, and there's something raw in his expression. You're easy to talk to, Elle. Easier than anyone has been in a long time. I don't usually tell people about my mother, about anything personal. But with you, it just comes out like I can't help but be honest. Is that a bad thing? I don't know yet, he admits, but it's interesting, and I haven't been interested in anything in a very long time. We keep dancing, and I'm aware of people watching, of whispers getting louder, of the fact that this moment is being observed and cataloged, and will definitely be gossip tomorrow. But none of it matters because Roman is holding me like I'm something precious. And for the first time in my life, I feel like maybe I am. Chapter 4, The Spotlight.
Let them stare. Stare.
The song ends, but Roman doesn't immediately let go of me. His hand stays at my waist for 3 extra heartbeats before he steps back, and I notice something shift in the room. Like the entire reception took a collective breath and is now exhaling speculation. We're officially the entertainment, I murmur, watching a group of women near the bar lean in close to each other, their eyes darting our way. Let them be entertained. Roman's voice is unconcerned, but his hand finds the small of my back again as we walk off the dance floor, that now familiar point of contact that seems to be his default. They were bored anyway. At least now they have something interesting to dissect. We make it maybe 5 steps before my cousin intercepts us. still in her elaborate wedding dress, her new husband trailing slightly behind with an expression I can't quite read. "Ella," she says. Her smile is bright, but her eyes are calculating. "I didn't realize you knew Roman Volkov." The way she says his full name, with weight and emphasis, tells me she knows exactly who he is and is trying to figure out why I'm with him. "We just met tonight," I say honestly, because there's no point in pretending otherwise. "Tonight?" my cousin repeats, her eyes flicking between us. "At my wedding." He has excellent timing, I offer, and Roman makes a sound beside me that might be amusement. "Jessica," Roman addresses my cousin with polite coolness. "Beautiful ceremony. Congratulations." "Thank you." Jessica's smile is still in place, but there's tension underneath. "I'm just surprised to see you here. I didn't realize you and Thomas knew each other well enough for wedding invitations." "We don't," Roman says simply, and I watch Thomas, the groom, shift uncomfortably. But business connections have a way of expanding social circles, and I decided at the last minute that attending might be worth my time. The implication hangs in the air, that he came because he wanted to, not because he was particularly invested in their marriage, and I see Jessica processing this, trying to figure out what it means. "And you're spending time with my cousin." Jessica's tone is light but pointed. "I am," Roman confirms. "She's excellent company." "Ella's always been good at observing," Jessica says, and I can't tell if it's a compliment or a dig. "She's very quiet, very watchful." "I prefer perceptive." Roman's voice drops a degree in temperature, and I find her conversation to be anything but quiet. Jessica's smile tightens, and Thomas clears his throat, clearly wanting to move this interaction along. "Well, we should continue making rounds," Thomas says, his hand finding Jessica's elbow. "Lots of guests to greet, but it was good to see you, Roman." "Thomas," Roman nods once, dismissive, and I watch my cousin and her new husband retreat with more haste than is probably polite. "That was awkward," I observe once they're out of earshot. "That was Thomas, realizing he's uncomfortable with my presence at his wedding," Roman corrects. "He invited me out of obligation, expected me to send a gift and decline, and now he's dealing with the fact that not only did I show up, I'm making myself very visible with someone he can't quite place. Why is he uncomfortable?" "Because I'm not supposed to draw attention." Roman's eyes follow Thomas across the room. "Men like me, we operate in shadows. We're the names people whisper about but don't acknowledge publicly. And by sitting with you, dancing with you, making it clear you're under my protection, I've violated the unspoken rule of staying invisible." The words, "under my protection," make my stomach flip, but I focus on the larger implication. So you being here with me is making a statement. Yes. What kind of statement? Roman looks at me, and there's something serious in his expression, that I don't care about their rules anymore, that I'm done pretending to be something I'm not just to make other people comfortable, and that you matter enough for me to stop caring about any of it. My heart is pounding, and I realize we're standing very close enough that I can see the exact shade of gray in his eyes, the small scar on his jaw that I noticed earlier, the way his mouth quirks slightly when he's about to say something he knows will affect me. "Who are you, Roman?" I ask quietly, needing the full truth now. Not just your name, not just that you're in business with Thomas. Who are you really? He's quiet for a moment, and I can see him deciding how much to tell me, how honest to be. Then he takes my hand and leads me away from the main reception area, through a door that opens onto a terrace that's empty and cold and private. "I run an organization," Roman says once we're alone, his back to the view, his full attention on me. Not the kind that gets advertised or listed on business cards, the kind that operates in spaces where legal and illegal blur together, where power matters more than legitimacy, where reputation is currency and violence is sometimes necessary. I should be afraid, should be backing away, but instead I just listen, waiting for him to continue. "Your cousin's husband, Thomas, he does business with people who do business with me," Roman continues. "Transportation, logistics, things that require discretion and protection. He's not directly involved in what I do, but he benefits from it, and that connection is why I received an invitation to this wedding." "And the other people here?" I ask, thinking about the nervous glances, the whispers. "Some know exactly who I am. Some have heard rumors. Most are smart enough to be cautious." Roman's eyes never leave mine, and all of them are trying to figure out why I'm here, why I'm making myself visible, why I'm with you. "Because I'm nobody," I say, the words coming out more bitter than I intended. "Because it doesn't make sense that someone like you would spend time with someone like me." "No," Roman's voice is sharp. Because you're not performing. Because you're real in a room full of people who aren't. Because when I sat down next to you, you didn't try to impress me or use me or calculate what I could do for you. You just talked to me like I was a person. And that's rare enough that I don't care what anyone thinks about it. I want to believe him, want to take his words at face value, but reality is pressing in now. The reality of who he is, what he does, the danger that probably follows him everywhere. This is a lot, I admit quietly. I know. Roman takes a step closer. And if you want to leave, if this is too much, I'll respect that. I'll walk away right now and you'll never have to see me again. But I'm hoping you don't. His voice drops lower. I'm hoping that knowing who I am, what I do, doesn't change the fact that for the past 2 hours we've connected in a way I haven't experienced in years. I'm hoping you'll still have dinner with me. Still let me tell you everything you want to know. Still give this a chance. I look at him, really look at him, at this dangerous man who's been nothing but honest with me, who's protected me from uncomfortable interactions, who's shared pieces of himself that I suspect he rarely shows anyone. And I realize that I'm not afraid, cautious maybe, aware of the risk, definitely, but not afraid. I'm still going to dinner with you, I hear myself say. Something like relief crosses Roman's face. Yeah, I confirm, but I want complete honesty. No more hints or careful wording. If I'm doing this, if I'm taking this risk, I need to know everything. You'll have it, Roman promises. Every truth, every answer, everything you want to know. No filters, no protection, just honesty. Okay, he echoes, and his smile is small but genuine. Should we go back inside? Probably. I glance at the terrace door, though I'm guessing we're already the main topic of conversation in there. Definitely, Roman agrees, but at least now you know why. And you're still here, still with me, and that matters more than anything they're saying. He offers me his arm, a surprisingly old-fashioned gesture, and I take it, letting him lead me back into the reception where I can feel every eye in the room track our entrance. My cousin is watching from across the room, her expression a mixture of concern and curiosity. Thomas is talking to a group of men, but his attention keeps drifting our way, and at least 24 people have their phones out, presumably documenting this for later discussion. Ready? Roman asks quietly. No, I admit, but let's do it anyway. His smile is worth every uncomfortable stare that follows. Chapter 5. The Breaking Point.
Stop touching me!
The party shifts into full gear around midnight, the formal dinner giving way to open bar and dance music that's too loud and the kind of loosened inhibitions that come with free champagne and dimmed lights, and I realize this is the part of weddings I truly dislike, when everyone stops pretending to be civilized and starts revealing who they actually are. Roman stays close, his presence a constant anchor in the chaos, and I watch as people get progressively drunker, louder, more willing to say things they'll regret tomorrow. Jessica has changed into a shorter dress for easier dancing, Thomas has loosened his tie, and the carefully curated elegance of the ceremony has devolved into something messier, more honest, more uncomfortable. You hate this part, Roman observes, his hand finding its usual place at the small of my back. Is it that obvious? Only to someone paying attention. He glances around the room with barely concealed distaste. And I agree, this is when people stop being interesting and start being predictable, drunk, inappropriate, thinking they're charming when really they're just loud. You sound like you've been to too many of these. I have. Roman's voice is dry, and I usually leave before this part, but tonight I'm making an exception. Because of me? Because of you, he confirms. Then his phone vibrates in his pocket. He pulls it out, glances at the screen, and his expression shifts to something more serious. I need to take this business. It'll be quick. I'll be fine, I assure him, even though part of me wants to ask him to stay. 2 minutes, Roman promises, his hand squeezing my waist briefly before he steps away toward the terrace where it's quieter, and I watch him go, phone already pressed to his ear, his posture shifting into that business mode I've glimpsed a few times tonight. I'm alone for maybe 30 seconds before I see him weaving through the crowd toward me, mid-30s maybe. Expensive suit that's now rumpled, tie askew, holding what's probably his 5th or 6th drink based on the unsteady way he's moving, and there's something about his face, about the way he's looking at me, that makes my stomach drop with recognition. Elle? The man says my name too loud, too familiar, stopping closer than is appropriate. Ella fucking Morrison. Is that really you? I know that voice. Know that face even though it's aged and gotten softer around the edges, and suddenly I'm 17 again and trying to avoid him at family gatherings, at parties, at anywhere our social circles overlapped. Derek, I keep my voice neutral, glancing toward the terrace where I can see Roman's silhouette through the glass, still on his phone. It's been, 8 years? Derek sways slightly, his eyes tracking over me in a way that makes my skin crawl. You look good. All grown up now. Thanks, I say flatly, hoping he'll take the hint and leave. But Derek has never been good at reading social cues, especially when drunk. Remember those summers at your cousin's lake house? Derek moves closer, and I can smell the whiskey on his breath. Good times. You and me. We had something going back then. We didn't, I correct sharply. You followed me around, and I repeatedly told you I wasn't interested. You were just playing hard to get. Derek laughs like this is funny, like my discomfort is entertainment. All that teasing, pretending you didn't want it. I wasn't pretending. My voice is ice now. I genuinely didn't want it. Never did. I look toward the terrace again, willing Roman to finish his call, but he's turned away from the windows, still deep in conversation with whoever's on the other end. Come on, Ella. Derek reaches out, his hand catching my waist with too much familiarity. Don't be like that. We're both adults now. We can finally do what we should have done back then. I freeze, every muscle in my body locking up because Derek's hand is on me, pulling me closer. And suddenly I'm 17 again and trying to get away from him at a party, pushing him off, hearing him laugh like my refusal was flirting, and the memory makes me feel sick. Let go, I say clearly, loud enough for people nearby to hear. Why? Derek leans in, his face too close to mine. We can do it like the old times, remember? You always said no, but you never really meant it. I always meant it. I push at his chest, but he's heavier than I am, drunker than I realized, and his grip tightens on my waist instead of releasing. Sure you did. Derek's other hand starts moving up my side, past my waist, and I feel panic rising because this is happening in public, at my cousin's wedding, and people are starting to notice, but no one's intervening. They're just watching, and Derek's hand keeps moving higher, and I push harder, but he won't let go. Derek, stop! His hand reaches my ribs, continues up toward my busto, and I see his intention clear now. Derek is going to grope me in the middle of this reception, is going to put his hands where they absolutely don't belong, and I'm pushing and trying to twist away, but he's got me caught, and his hand is almost there when suddenly Derek isn't touching me anymore. Roman has him by the collar, yanks him away from me with controlled force that doesn't look violent, but absolutely is, and suddenly Derek is against the wall by the bar, Roman holding him there with one hand, his other arm extended to keep me behind him, protected, and I realize Roman must have seen through the terrace windows, must have dropped his call the second he noticed what was happening. What the fuck? Derek starts, but Roman's hand shifts to his throat, not choking, just holding, a reminder of how easily he could. You don't touch her. Roman's voice is quiet, conversational almost, but there's something underneath that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Not now, not ever. Are we clear? Who the hell are you? Derek tries to sound tough, but his voice cracks. Someone you really don't want to make angry. Roman's grip tightens slightly. And you've already made me very angry, so I suggest you listen carefully. Ella said no. She pushed you away. She told you to stop, and you ignored all of it, which means you're either stupid or you think you can do whatever you want without consequences. She always played hard to get, Derek slurs, and I feel something crack inside my chest. Back in high school, she'd say no, but she'd always give in eventually. I just had to push a little. The reception has gone silent around us, everyone watching now, and I feel exposed, humiliated, because Derek just told an entire room full of people that I gave in, that I ceded to his advances, and it's not true. I never gave him anything, but now everyone's looking at me like maybe I did, like maybe I'm the one who led him on. That's not true, I say, but my voice comes out shaky, uncertain, and I hate that I sound weak when I need to sound strong. Ella always acted like she was too good for everyone, Derek continues, talking to Roman now like I'm not even here. But she wasn't. She just wanted to be chased, wanted to feel special, and I was happy to oblige. I feel tears burning behind my eyes, and I absolutely cannot cry here, cannot break down in front of 200 people who are now witnessing my complete humiliation. So I do the only thing I can think of. I turn and walk toward the exit, moving fast, needing to get out before anyone sees me fall apart. Behind me, I hear Roman's voice, low and deadly. You're going to leave this wedding right now. You're going to tell anyone who asks that you're sick, And you're never going to speak to Elle again. Not at parties, not at family events, not anywhere. Because if you do, if you so much as look at her wrong, I will make sure you understand exactly how serious I am about protecting what's mine. She's not yours, Derek starts. She is now, Roman cuts him off. And that means she's untouchable. Do you understand what that word means, Derek? Untouchable, as in, if you come near her again, I will touch you in ways that leave permanent reminders. I don't hear Derek's response because I'm already outside, pushing through the doors into the cold night air, my heels clicking on the pavement as I put distance between myself and the reception, between myself and the stares and whispers and Derek's lies that everyone just heard. The parking lot is mostly empty, just rows of expensive cars gleaming under streetlights, and I find a spot between two vehicles where I can't be seen from the venue and let myself break. The tears come hard and fast. Angry tears more than sad ones, because Derek just humiliated me in front of everyone, made it sound like I was playing games when really I was just trying to survive his attention, and now everyone in there thinks I'm a tease, thinks I led him on, thinks I gave him something I never gave. I hear footsteps behind me and know without looking that it's Roman. He moves quietly, but I've gotten used to the particular rhythm of his walk, the weight of his presence. Ella, his voice is soft, gentler than I've heard it all night. I'm fine. I lie, wiping at my face with shaking hands. You're not, Roman says, and then he's in front of me, his hands coming up to cup my face, tilting it up so he can see the tears I'm trying to hide. And that's okay. You don't have to be fine right now. Everyone thinks I can't finish the sentence, can't say out loud what Derek implied. Everyone thinks Derek is a drunk asshole who got thrown out of a wedding, Roman corrects, his thumbs brushing away tears. And anyone who believes his version over yours isn't worth concerning yourself with. But he said he lied. Roman's voice is firm. I know he lied, Elle. I watched you with him. I saw the way you froze when he touched you, the way you pushed him away, the panic in your eyes when he wouldn't let go. That's not someone who wanted attention. That's someone who was being assaulted. The word assaulted makes something loosen in my chest, because that's what it was. Even if it was brief, even if Roman stopped it. Derek put his hands on me without permission and wouldn't stop when I said no, and hearing Roman name it for what it was makes the humiliation feel slightly less overwhelming. I hate that everyone saw that, I whisper. I hate that I wasn't standing closer, Roman says, and there's guilt in his voice that surprises me. I should have ignored that call, should have stayed right beside you, and by the time I looked through the window, Derek had his hands on you. That's unacceptable. I should have been there. You can't be with me every second. Why not? He asks, completely serious. If being with you every second means you never have to feel like that again, never have to push away some drunk asshole who thinks he has rights to your body, then I'll stay beside you every second for the rest of my life. The intensity of the statement steals my breath, and I look up at him, really look at him, and see something in his expression that I've never seen before, something raw and vulnerable, almost painful. You're upset, I observe. I'm furious, Roman corrects. At Derek, at myself, at the fact that you're standing here crying because someone violated your boundaries and I didn't stop it fast enough. You stopped it. Not fast enough, he says again, and his hands are still on my face, still gentle despite the anger I can feel vibrating through him. Ellie, I need you to understand something. When I said you matter to me, when I said you're important, I meant it in ways I'm only just starting to comprehend, and seeing you hurt, seeing you cry because someone touched you without permission, it's breaking something inside me that I didn't even know could break anymore. I reach up, cover his hands with mine. What do you mean? I mean, I haven't felt protective like this in years. Roman's voice drops lower. I haven't cared enough about someone to feel actual rage at the thought of them being hurt. I've been numb for so long, Ella, just going through motions, doing what needs to be done, and then you showed up at a wedding I didn't want to attend, and suddenly I'm feeling everything again. Anger, protectiveness, fear, and it's terrifying because I don't know what to do with it. You're doing fine, I say softly. I'm doing terribly, he counters. I want to go back in there and finish what I started with Derek. I want to make sure he never forgets what happens when he touches you. I want to track down everyone who was watching and make sure they know the truth, that you're not what he said, that you're... He stops, and I see him struggling with something. That I'm what? I prompt. That you're everything, Roman finishes, the words coming out rough. That you're intelligent and honest and kind, that you see through bullshit. That you trace patterns on glass when you're nervous, that you smile when you think no one's watching, that you deserve better than drunk assholes who won't take no for an answer, and that now, after tonight, after seeing you cry because of him, I'm never going to let anyone hurt you again. The declaration should be overwhelming, should feel like too much, too fast, but instead it feels like relief, like someone finally seeing all of me and deciding I'm worth defending. Roman, I start, but he pulls me closer, wraps his arms around me, and suddenly I'm pressed against his chest, his heart beating fast under my ear, his warmth surrounding me. Let me hold you, he says quietly, just for a minute. Let me hold you and pretend I can protect you from everything, even if we both know I can't. So I do. I let myself lean into him, let myself take comfort in his strength, and for the first time tonight, I feel like I can breathe properly, like the humiliation is something I can survive because I don't have to survive it alone. We should leave, Roman says after a moment. Get you out of here, away from all of this. What about dinner? Dinner can wait. He pulls back enough to look at me. Right now, you need distance from that reception and everyone in it. So I'm taking you home, making sure you're okay, and then tomorrow, when you've had time to process this, we'll talk about everything else. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Roman cuts me off gently. Elle, taking care of you isn't an obligation. It's a choice I'm making because you matter, because seeing you hurt makes me hurt, and because I need to know you're safe before I can think about anything else. I nod, not trusting my voice, and Roman keeps one arm around me as he walks me to his car, a sleek black, extremely powerful and beautiful. And I realize that tonight changed something fundamental between us. We went from intriguing strangers to something else, something deeper and more complicated and potentially dangerous. But looking at Roman as he opens the car door for me, seeing the concern in his eyes and the barely controlled rage still simmering underneath, I realize I don't care about the danger, because for the first time in my life, someone is choosing to stand beside me, to defend me, to care about my pain like it's their own. And that's worth any risk. Chapter 6. Consequences.
I'm scared.
I discover I'm the subject of citywide gossip 3 days after the wedding when my phone buzzes with a text from a friend I haven't spoken to in 6 months, asking if I'm seriously dating Roman Volkov and if I've lost my mind. That's the first indication that the wedding incident didn't stay contained within that venue, and over the next hour, my phone lights up with increasingly invasive questions from people I barely know, acquaintances reaching out with thinly veiled curiosity, distant relatives asking if I'm safe and if they should be concerned. And by noon, I have 17 missed calls and an inbox full of messages that range from genuine worry to blatant gossip seeking. I turn my phone off and try to pretend this isn't happening, try to pretend that Derek's hands on me weren't real, that the humiliation of everyone watching wasn't real, that the feeling of being completely exposed and vulnerable in front of 200 people isn't replaying in my head on an endless loop. The panic attack hits around hour 2 of staring at my ceiling. My chest gets tight and my breathing goes shallow. And suddenly, I'm back in that reception with Derek's hands moving up my body and everyone watching and doing nothing. And I have to remind myself that Roman stopped it, that Derek is gone, that I'm safe in my apartment, but my body doesn't seem to believe it. When there's a knock on my door, I almost don't answer because I'm not in any state to see anyone. My eyes are red from crying. I'm wearing pajamas at 2 in the afternoon, and I probably look like I've been through a war, which emotionally I have. But then I hear Roman's voice through the door saying, "Ella, I know you're there. Your neighbor told me you came home an hour ago." And something in me breaks because of course he's here. Of course he tracked me down, and I don't know if I want to see him or hide from him or both. I open the door, and the words come out before I can stop them. "How did you find where I live?" "I have resources," Roman says. And then he actually looks at me, really looks, and his expression shifts immediately. "What happened?" "Nothing happened," I say, but my voice is shaky and unconvincing. "Ella, everyone knows." The words tumble out, too fast, too panicked. "Everyone is calling and texting and asking if I'm okay and if I know who you are and if I need help." And I turned my phone off, but I can still feel it buzzing, can still see all the messages piling up, and I don't know how to handle this, Roman. I don't know how to be the person everyone is suddenly interested in. Roman's jaw tightens. Can I come in? I should say no, should send him away, should deal with this alone like I always deal with everything, but instead I step back and let him in, closing the door behind him with shaking hands. My apartment is small and cluttered, and I'm suddenly self-conscious about the books stacked everywhere, and the mismatched furniture, and the fact that this is so clearly not the kind of space Roman normally occupies, but he doesn't seem to notice or care. He's too busy looking at me like I'm something fragile that might break. "Sit down," he says gently, guiding me to the couch. "I'm fine." "You're not." Roman sits beside me, close but not touching. "Tell me what happened. All of it." And somehow, impossibly, I do. I tell him about the messages and the calls and the panic attack and the way I keep replaying Derek's hands on me and everyone watching. And Roman listens without interrupting, his expression getting darker with every word. I keep thinking about how everyone saw. I finish, my voice breaking slightly, how they all watched him touch me and no one did anything until you got there. And now they're all calling, pretending to care, but really they just want the story, want to know what it's like to be involved with you, and I can't breathe properly because my whole life just changed and I didn't ask for any of this. There's a long silence, and then I realize what I just said, how I just blamed Roman for something that isn't actually his fault. "God, I'm being such a bitch," I say, pressing my hands to my face. "You saved me from Derek. You literally pulled him off me and made sure he won't come near me again. And I'm sitting here acting like you're the problem when really you're the only reason I'm not still dealing with his hands on me." "You're not being a bitch." Roman's voice is soft. "You're processing trauma. There's a difference." "No, I am," I insist, looking at him now. "You've been nothing but honest and protective and kind, and I'm sitting here overwhelmed and scared and taking it out on you when you don't deserve it. I'm sorry, Roman. I'm sorry for being difficult about this when you literally saved me." I'm scared." The admission comes out in a rush. I'm scared of how fast everything changed. I'm scared of being visible when I've been invisible my whole life. I'm scared that Derek's lies are what people will remember instead of the truth. I'm scared of being connected to your world when I don't understand it. And I'm scared of how much I already care about you when we've only known each other 3 days. Roman's expression does something complicated. "You care about me?" "Obviously," I say, because it feels pointless to deny it now. "You're intense and protective, and you see me in ways no one else ever has. And that's terrifying, Roman, because what if I'm not actually worth all of this? What if you decide I'm not as interesting as you thought, and I've already changed my entire life for you? That's not going to happen. You don't know that." "Yes, I do," Roman says with absolute certainty. "Ella, you're not some passing interest. You're not someone I'm going to get bored with. I chose you, and when I choose something, I don't unchose it just because it gets complicated." "But it is complicated," I say quietly. My phone won't stop ringing. People I haven't talked to in years are suddenly very invested in my life, and I know it's because of you, because being seen with you means something, and I'm grateful. I really am grateful that you protected me, but I'm also overwhelmed and I don't know how to process all of it. Roman is quiet for a moment, then he reaches out and takes my hand. The gesture is gentle, asking permission rather than demanding. "Can I tell you something?" "Okay. When I saw Derek with his hands on you, when I saw you trying to push him away and him not stopping, something in me broke." Roman's voice is low, intense. "I've seen violence. I've caused violence. I've done things I'm not proud of. But watching someone touch you without permission, watching you be scared and vulnerable, that was different. That made me feel something I haven't felt in years." "What did you feel?" "Rage," he says simply. "Pure, unfiltered rage at the thought of someone hurting you, and then fear because I realized how much I already cared about you, how much it mattered to me that you were okay. And that's terrifying for me too, Ella, because caring makes you vulnerable, makes you breakable." I look at our joined hands. "So, we're both scared." "We're both terrified," Roman corrects. "But we're terrified together, which is better than being terrified alone." Despite everything, I almost smile. That's a terrible sales pitch for a relationship. "Good thing I'm not selling anything," he says. "I'm just being honest. This is going to be complicated. People are going to talk, your life is going to change, but you don't have to navigate any of it alone. I'm here, I'm choosing to be here, and I'm going to make sure you're protected even when that protection comes with consequences." "I really am grateful," I say, needing him to understand, "for what you did at the wedding, for stopping Derek, for making sure he won't come near me again. I know I'm being difficult about the attention and the changes, but I'm not ungrateful, Roman. You saved me, and I don't know how to properly thank you for that." "You don't need to thank me." Roman's thumb traces patterns on my hand. "Protecting you isn't something that requires gratitude. It's just something I do because you matter." "Okay." I'm definitely being chata now, I say with a watery laugh, using the Portuguese word because it fits better than difficult. You're being perfect, and I'm sitting here spiraling about phone calls when you literally rescued me from assault. You're not being chata, Roman says, stumbling slightly over the unfamiliar word, but getting the meaning. You're being human. You're allowed to be overwhelmed, Elle. You're allowed to need time to process everything that happened. You don't have to be strong all the time. The permission to be vulnerable does something to my chest, makes the tears I've been holding back start to fall again, and Roman pulls me closer, wraps his arms around me, and lets me cry against his shoulder. I hate crying, I mumble against his shirt. I know. His hand runs through my hair, soothing. But you needed to, and you're safe now. Derek is gone. The wedding is over, and you don't have to face any of this alone. We stay like that for a long time. Him holding me while I process 3 days of trauma and fear and overwhelming change, and eventually the tears stop, and I'm just breathing, just existing in the safety of his arms. Thank you, I say finally, pulling back to look at him, for coming here, for checking on me, for not being angry that I turned my phone off. I'll always come, Roman says simply. That's what choosing you means, Elle. It means I don't let you disappear, even when you want to, even when you're scared. I'll always find you and make sure you're okay. That should probably be creepy, but it's not. But it's not, I admit. It's actually kind of comforting, knowing someone cares enough to show up uninvited just to make sure I'm still breathing properly. Are you? Roman asks. Breathing properly? Better now, I say honestly. Still scared, still overwhelmed, but better you being here helps. Which is annoying because I wanted to be independent and handle this alone, but apparently I can't. Or maybe you can, Roman suggests. But you don't have to. There's a difference between needing someone and choosing to let them help. And I think you're doing the second one. I consider this. That's annoyingly insightful. I have my moments. There's amusement in his voice now. Now, are you going to turn your phone back on and deal with those 17 messages, or are we going to pretend they don't exist? Can we pretend for a little longer? We can pretend as long as you need, Roman says. But eventually, you're going to have to face it, and when you do, I'll help you figure out what to say, how to handle the questions, who deserves answers, and who deserves to be ignored. You'd do that? Elle, I'd do anything for you. He says it like it's obvious. We've established this. You matter to me. That means I help you deal with complicated situations, even when those situations exist because of me. They exist because of Derek, I correct. Not because of you, you're just dealing with the aftermath. Either way, Roman's hand finds my face, tilting it up so I have to look at him. I'm here. I'm not leaving, and we're going to figure this out together. Complicated and terrifying and all. I lean into his touch. This is a disaster. Probably, he agrees. But at least it's an interesting disaster. You keep saying that. Because it's true, Roman smiles slightly. And because you keep staying despite the disaster, which tells me you think it's worth it too. Maybe, I admit. Or maybe I'm just bad at making rational decisions. Or maybe, he suggests, you're finally making decisions based on what you actually want instead of what's safe. And that's terrifying, but also brave. I don't feel brave. You are, though, Roman says with certainty. You survived Derek. You're surviving the aftermath. You're sitting here being honest about being scared instead of pretending you're fine. That's brave, Elle. Even if it doesn't feel like it. I don't know what to say to that. So I just lean forward and rest my forehead against his shoulder, letting myself take comfort in his solid presence, in the fact that he showed up and stayed and isn't judging me for falling apart. Can we have that dinner now? I ask quietly. The one you promised, where you tell me everything and I get to ask all my questions? Right now? Right now, I confirm. I need to know exactly what I'm getting into, what your world looks like, what being connected to you actually means, and I need you to be completely honest about all of it. Even the scary parts. Especially the scary parts, Roman agrees. Get dressed. I'm taking you somewhere quiet where we can talk without interruption, and I'm going to tell you everything you want to know. No filters, no protection, just truth. That sounds ominous. It's going to be honest, he corrects. And honesty is sometimes ominous, but it's also necessary if we're going to make this work. I stand, feeling steadier now, and head toward my bedroom to change. Roman? Yeah? I really am sorry for being difficult earlier. I look back at him. You didn't deserve that. You're allowed to be difficult, Roman says. You're allowed to process trauma in whatever way you need. Just Don't disappear on me again, okay? If you need to turn your phone off, text me first so I know you're safe. Deal? Deal, I agree, and something warm settles in my chest because he's not asking me to be perfect, just asking me to let him know I'm okay. And that feels manageable. An hour later, we're at a small restaurant that's clearly too expensive for normal people, but perfect for private conversations, tucked in a corner booth where no one can overhear, and Roman is telling me exactly what his world looks like, the businesses that are legitimate and the ones that aren't, the violence that sometimes comes with protection, the enemies he's made, and the power he holds. And I listen, really listen, and realize that I'm not scared of him. I'm scared of losing him, of getting attached to someone whose life is dangerous, of caring about someone who might not always come home. But looking at Roman across the table, at the way he's being brutally honest about everything I asked, I realize I'm already attached, already care, already in too deep to walk away now. So I don't. Chapter 7. The Price of Protection.
I need boundaries.
I'm at the coffee shop 2 blocks from my apartment when I realize that being connected to Roman Volkov comes with a very specific price, and that price is being watched. It's been 5 days since our dinner, 5 days of increasingly frequent texts and 2 more meals where Roman explained his world with brutal honesty, and I thought I understood what being with him meant, but apparently I missed a crucial detail, which is that his protection extends to surveillance. I noticed the man first, sitting 3 tables away with a newspaper he's not actually reading because his eyes keep flicking to me. He's maybe 30, wearing casual clothes that are just a bit too nice for this neighborhood. And when I get up to order another coffee, he shifts his position slightly to maintain line of sight. I'm being followed, or protected, or both, and I can't decide if I'm annoyed or touched or some complicated combination of the two. Ella Morrison? I turn to find a man standing beside me at the counter. He's about my age, attractive in a completely non-threatening way, wearing a business suit and holding a coffee that suggests he's on his way to work somewhere nearby. Yes, I say cautiously, because strangers knowing my name is still strange. I thought that was you. He smiles, friendly and open. We met at your cousin's wedding. I'm Andrew. I work with Thomas. I vaguely remember seeing him at the reception, though honestly most of that night is a blur of champagne and trauma and Roman. Right, hi. I wanted to apologize, Andrew continues, his expression shifting to something more serious. For what happened with that guy, Derek. Everyone was talking about it after you left, and I felt terrible that no one intervened sooner. It's fine, I say automatically, even though it's not fine, and probably never will be. It's not fine, Andrew says, echoing my thoughts. But I'm glad Roman was there. Glad you had someone watching out for you, anyway. I just wanted to say that if you ever need anything, or if you want to grab coffee sometime and talk to someone who's not part of all that intensity, I'm around. It's a perfectly innocent offer, friendly and casual, and exactly the kind of thing normal people do. But I can feel the man 3 tables away shift his attention, and I know without looking that he's now very focused on this conversation. That's nice of you, I say, trying to figure out how to politely decline without seeming rude. No pressure, Andrew adds quickly. I know you're seeing Roman. Everyone knows that. I just thought you might want a friend who's not connected to all the complicated stuff. Someone normal to talk to. I appreciate that, I say honestly. Can I think about it? Of course! Andrew pulls out a business card, hands it to me. My cell is on there. Text me if you want to get coffee. Or don't. Either way, it was good to see you looking better than you did at the wedding. He leaves with a friendly wave, and I'm left holding his business card and feeling the weight of surveillance from 3 tables away. And I realize that this is my life now, being approached by well-meaning men while Roman's people watch to make sure nothing threatening happens. I finish my coffee quickly and head home. My phone buzzes halfway there with a text from Roman. Roman, someone gave you a business card. I almost laugh, because of course he already knows. Of course his surveillance team reports directly to him. Me. His name is Andrew. He works with Thomas. He was being friendly. Roman, he wants more than friendship. Me. You don't know that. Roman, yes, I do. Men don't offer coffee to women they just want to be friends with. Me, that's a very cynical view of human interaction. Roman, that's a realistic view of male behavior. Are you going to call him? I stop walking, stand in the middle of the sidewalk, and type my response carefully. Me, I don't know. Should I not be allowed to have coffee with other men? The 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again, and I can practically feel Roman deciding how to respond without sounding controlling. Roman, you're allowed to do whatever you want. But I'd prefer you didn't. Me. Why? Roman. Because I'm a jealous bastard. And the thought of you having coffee with someone who clearly wants to date you makes me want to break things. The honesty is startling, and I don't know whether to be flattered or concerned. Me. At least you're honest about it. Roman. I told you I don't do games. I'm possessive and jealous, and I don't share well. If that's a problem, tell me now. I stare at my phone, at this man who's being brutally honest about his flaws, and I realize I need to see him in person for this conversation. Me. Where are you? Roman. Office. Why? Me. Because we need to talk about this face to face. Roman. Come over. Me. Now? Roman. Right now. I'll send a car. 20 minutes later, I'm being escorted into a building that's all steel and glass and money, riding an elevator to the top floor where apparently Roman runs his legitimate businesses, and when the doors open, I'm greeted by a receptionist who looks unsurprised to see me. Miss Morrison, Mr. Volkov is expecting you. Last door on the right. I walk down a hallway that feels too quiet, too expensive, and push open the door to find Roman behind a massive desk, looking every inch the powerful businessman in a perfectly tailored suit. Elliot, he stands immediately. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I close the door behind me. But we need to talk about boundaries. Roman's expression is carefully neutral. Okay, you're having me followed, I say directly. I'm having you protected, he corrects. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, a man watching my every move and reporting back to you feels an awful lot like surveillance. It's protection. Roman says again, his voice firm. Ella, you're connected to me now. That makes you a target. Having someone nearby who can intervene if something goes wrong isn't surveillance. It's common sense. And texting me about a business card someone gave me, that's protection too? That's me, making sure you know I'm aware of what's happening in your life. Roman comes around the desk, leans against it. That's me being honest about the fact that I don't like other men approaching you. I'm not your property, Roman. I never said you were. His voice is calm, but there's tension underneath. But you are mine, Ella. You're under my protection. You're connected to me in ways that matter. And that means I care about who's approaching you and what their intentions are. Andrew was being friendly? Andrew wants to date you, Roman says flatly. He waited until you were alone, approached in a public place where you'd feel safe, offered friendship as a way in. It's textbook courtship behavior, and I don't like it. So what am I supposed to do? Never talk to men again? Talk to whoever you want. Roman's jaw is tight now, but don't pretend that Andrew's intentions are innocent, and don't be surprised when I'm honest about hating the idea of you having coffee with someone who wants what I have. What you have? I cross my arms. You make me sound like a possession. You're not a possession. Roman's voice drops lower. You're a choice. My choice. The person I decided matters enough to protect, to be possessive about, to be jealous over, and yes, Elle, I'm going to be honest about hating the idea of you spending time with men who want to take you away from me. What if I want to have coffee with Andrew? The question hangs in the air, and I watch Roman's expression shift through several emotions before settling on something controlled. Then you can, he says finally. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to forbid it. I'm just going to be very honest about the fact that I hate it, that I'll spend the entire time you're gone imagining him making you laugh, making you comfortable, offering you something normal that I can't give you, and I'll hate every second of it. That's not fair. No, Roman agrees. It's not fair, but it's honest, Ella. My interest in you was never light. It was never casual. From the moment I sat down next to you at that wedding, I was all in, possessive and protective and completely unreasonable about sharing your attention. And if that's too much, if you need someone less intense, then tell me now before I get any more attached than I already am. I stare at him, at this powerful man admitting he's already attached, already invested, already too far gone to be rational about this. I don't want someone less intense, I hear myself say. Then what do you want? I want to understand the rules. I move closer. I want to know what being yours actually means, what I'm allowed to do, what crosses lines, what makes you jealous versus what makes you actually concerned, because right now I'm navigating blind, and that's not fair to either of us. Roman is quiet for a moment. Then he reaches out and pulls me closer, his hands on my waist. You're allowed to do anything that doesn't put you in danger. You're allowed to have friends, male or female. You're allowed to have coffee with people. You're allowed to live your life. But I'm going to be jealous, he admits. I'm going to hate watching other men try to get close to you. I'm going to be possessive and unreasonable, and I'm going to be very honest about all of it because I don't know how to pretend I'm fine with sharing your attention when I'm not. That's exhausting. Probably. Roman's thumb traces patterns on my waist. But it's also honest, and I'd rather be exhaustingly honest than pretend I'm something I'm not. I look up at him, at the tension in his jaw and the vulnerability in his eyes, and I realize he's giving me a choice. He's being clear about what being with him means, and now I have to decide if it's worth it. I'm not going to have coffee with Andrew, I say finally. Because I don't want you to? Because I don't want to, I correct. Because I'm not interested in him, because I'd rather spend time with you, because your jealousy is flattering even when it's overwhelming, but Roman, you can't text me every time a man talks to me. That's not sustainable. What if he was being threatening? He wasn't. But what if he was? Roman's voice is intense now. What if the next man who approaches you isn't friendly? What if he knows you're connected to me and decides you're a way to get to me? What if something happens and I could have prevented it by paying attention? I see it clearly now, the fear underneath the possessiveness. He's not just jealous, he's terrified something will happen to me, and the surveillance isn't about control. It's about keeping me safe in a world that's more dangerous than I understand. Okay, I say softly. Okay, what? Okay, I understand now. I reach up, touch his face. You're not trying to control me, you're trying to protect me, and sometimes that looks like jealousy, but really it's fear. And I get it, Roman. I understand why you need to know I'm safe. Something in his expression cracks. You're not angry? I'm not thrilled about being watched, I admit, but I understand why, and I appreciate that you're being honest about it instead of pretending you're not jealous. So here's the deal. You can have someone nearby for safety, but you don't get to interrogate me about every man who speaks to me unless there's an actual threat. Agreed. Agreed. Roman pulls me closer. And Elle? Yeah? Thank you for understanding, for not running, for being reasonable about my completely unreasonable possessiveness. I'm not being reasonable, I say. I'm being realistic. You told me your interest wasn't light. I'm just now understanding exactly what that means. And you're still here. I'm still here, I confirm. And then because I can't help it, I add, though your jealousy is kind of hot when it's not being overwhelming. Roman's smile is slow and dangerous. Is it? Unfortunately, yes, I admit, which is probably a character flaw on my part. Or excellent taste, he suggests. And then he's kissing me. Finally, after days of tension and conversation and careful navigation, he's kissing me like he's been holding back and can't anymore. And I kiss him back because apparently I'm just as invested in this disaster as he is. When we break apart, we're both breathing hard, and Roman's forehead rests against mine. No more coffee offers from other men, he says. No more interrogations about innocent conversations, I counter. Deal. Deal, I agree. And I realize that we're figuring this out, messily and imperfectly, but we're doing it together. And that's worth every complicated moment. Chapter 8, The Truth Between Them.
I choose you.
We end up at Roman's place after the office, not because anything was planned, but because neither of us wanted to leave, wanted to break the fragile intimacy that formed after that kiss, and now I'm sitting on his balcony overlooking the city while he pours wine neither of us is really going to drink. Tell me something, I say when he joins me, handing me a glass. Something true that you don't usually tell people. Roman settles into the chair beside me, and for a moment he's quiet, just looking out at the lights below like they hold answers. I'm lonely, he says finally. I have power, money, influence, people who work for me and enemies who fear me. But I'm profoundly lonely, and I have been for years. The admission steals my breath. Why? Because power isolates. Roman's voice is soft, honest. People treat you differently when they know what you're capable of, when they know that crossing you has consequences. They become careful, calculated. They show you the version of themselves they think you want to see. And after a while, you forget what genuine connection even feels like. I think about this. About what it must be like to have everyone perform for you. Is that why you sat next to me at the wedding? Because I wasn't performing? Yes, he looks at me now. You were just existing, being yourself, not trying to impress anyone or use anyone, just watching and seeing people clearly. And that was so rare, so valuable, that I couldn't help but want more of it. More of me being unimpressive, I ask with a slight smile. More of you being real, Roman corrects. More of someone who looks at me and sees a person instead of a reputation. More of conversations that aren't transactions, more of feeling like I exist beyond what I can do for people. I set down my wine glass. Can I tell you something true too? Please. I chose to be invisible, I say, the words coming out slowly. Everyone thinks I was just overlooked, just the quiet cousin who didn't matter, but really I made myself invisible on purpose because being seen felt dangerous. Being seen meant people had expectations, meant they could be disappointed, meant I could fail at being what they wanted. Roman's expression shifts with understanding. So, you protected yourself by disappearing. Yes, I admit. And it worked. I was safe and alone and completely invisible, but I was also miserable. And I didn't even realize how miserable until you sat down next to me and decided I was worth seeing. You were always worth seeing. Roman's voice is firm. You just needed someone who was willing to look past the performance to find you. But that's terrifying, I say quietly. Being seen means being vulnerable, means someone can hurt you, means you can't hide anymore. And I've been hiding for so long that I don't know how to be visible without being scared. You're doing it right now, Roman points out. You're sitting here being completely honest with me about your fears. That's not hiding, Elle. That's the opposite of hiding. It feels like hiding, I confess. Like if I'm honest enough, you'll see all the broken parts and decide I'm not worth the effort after all. Not possible. Roman reaches out, takes my hand. I've seen you scared and overwhelmed and crying in a parking lot. I've seen you angry and confused and trying to process trauma. I've seen the broken parts, Elle, and they don't make me want you less. They make me want to protect you more. That's not healthy, I say, but there's no heat in it. Maybe not, Roman agrees, but it's honest, and we're being honest tonight, so here's more honesty. I don't want you because you're perfect. I want you because you're real, because you let me be real too, because when I'm with you, I don't have to be the dangerous crime lord or the powerful businessman. I can just be Roman, and that's something I haven't experienced in years. I feel tears burning behind my eyes again. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Be vulnerable with someone, I clarify. Let someone see me, all of me, without trying to manage what they see or control how they react. I've spent so long being invisible that being visible feels like standing naked in front of a crowd. Then we'll figure it out together. Roman's thumb traces patterns on my hand. We'll both be terrified and vulnerable and completely honest. And we'll stumble through this disaster until it starts to feel less like a disaster and more like something worth having. That's not much of a guarantee. No, he agrees, but it's real. And real is better than perfect. Real is what we both need, even if it's messy and complicated and sometimes overwhelming. I look at him, really look at him, and see my own fear reflected back, my own loneliness, my own desperate hope that maybe this time, with this person, vulnerability won't end in disappointment. I want this, I say quietly. I want you, not as protection or as someone to save me, but as a choice I'm making, even though it terrifies me, as someone I'm choosing to be visible with, even though everything in me says to hide. Elle, but I need you to understand, I continue, that I'm going to be scared sometimes, that I'm going to want to hide, that being seen is going to make me want to run, and I need to know that you'll be patient with that you won't give up on me when I get difficult. I won't, Roman says with absolute certainty. I'm choosing you too, Elle, not as someone to possess or control, but as someone I want to know, really know all the messy, complicated parts. And I'm choosing to be known by you too, which is terrifying because you see through all my carefully constructed walls. Good, I say softly, because I don't want your walls. I want the man who plays piano alone and gets jealous over coffee invitations and admits he's lonely. That's who I'm choosing. Roman pulls me closer until I'm in his lap, his arms wrapped around me. Then you have me, he says against my hair. All of me. Walls and vulnerability and completely unreasonable possessiveness. It's yours if you want it. I want it, I confirm. And I realize that's the truth. I want this disaster, want this man, want to be seen even though it's terrifying. Because being invisible was safe but lonely, and being visible with Roman is dangerous but real. And real is worth the risk. Chapter 9, The Choice.
I'm not invisible anymore.
6 weeks after the wedding, I'm invited to another event, this time a charity gala that my cousin insists I attend, and I know without asking that she wants to see if I'm still with Roman, if the gossip is true, if I've completely lost my mind. You don't have to go, Roman says when I tell him about the invitation. We're at his place again. have been spending most evenings here because my apartment feels too small now that I've seen how he lives. Tell her you're busy. I want to go, I say, surprising both of us. Roman looks up from his laptop. You want to go to an event where everyone will stare and whisper and ask invasive questions about us? Yes, I confirm, realizing as I say it that I mean it. I want to go with you, publicly, as your date. I want everyone to see that I'm not some naive girl who got swept up in something dangerous. I'm a woman making a conscious decision about who I want to be with. Something shifts in Roman's expression. You're sure? I'm terrified, I admit. But yes, I'm sure. I'm done hiding, Roman. I'm done being invisible. If being with you means being visible, then I want to be visible on my terms. Not as someone people gossip about, but as someone who stands beside you, knowing exactly who you are. Elle, I want this, I say firmly. Not your protection, not your power, not because I'm scared or overwhelmed or need saving. I want you because you make me feel seen, because you're honest when everyone else performs. Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to actually exist instead of just surviving. So yes, I want to go to this gala with you. I want everyone to see that this is real. Roman stands, crosses to me, his hands coming up to frame my face. You have no idea what you do to me when you say things like that. Tell me. You make me feel like I'm more than what I do. Like I'm worthy of being wanted instead of just feared or used. Like maybe I can be the man who deserves you instead of the man who's just possessive enough to keep you. His voice is rough with emotion. And Ella, I don't deserve you, but I'm selfish enough to keep you anyway. You do deserve me, I correct, reaching up to cover his hands with mine. You deserve someone who sees you, who wants you, who isn't afraid of your world but walks into it willingly because you're worth the risk. This is your last chance to back out, Roman says seriously. If we go to this gala together, if I introduce you publicly as mine, there's no going back. Everyone will know. Your name will be permanently connected to mine. You'll be part of my world in ways that can't be undone. Good, I say simply. I don't want to undo it. I want to own it. I want to walk into that room with you and show everyone that I'm not scared. I'm not a victim. I'm committed to this life, this man, this beautiful, dangerous disaster. Roman's smile is devastating. Then let's give them something to talk about. The gala is exactly as overwhelming as I expected. All designer gowns and expensive jewelry and people who exist in tax brackets I didn't know existed. But this time, I'm not alone in the corner watching. I'm on Roman's arm, wearing a dress he insisted on buying me in deep purple that he remembered was my favorite color, and every eye in the room follows us as we enter. They're staring, I murmur. Let them. Roman's hand finds the small of my back, that familiar possessive gesture. They can stare all they want. It won't change anything. My cousin appears within minutes, Jessica in a gold dress that probably required a team of people to put on, her expression a mixture of concern and curiosity. Ella, you came. I did, I say evenly. Jessica, you remember Roman? Of course. Jessica's smile is tight. Roman, thank you for coming and for taking care of Elle at our wedding. That situation with Derek was unfortunate. It was assault, Roman corrects. His voice is polite but firm, and Elle handled it with more grace than he deserved. Jessica blinks, clearly not expecting the directness. Yes, well, I'm glad it was resolved. Ella, can I talk to you for a moment, privately? Anything you need to say to Elle, you can say in front of me, Roman says before I can respond. Roman, I start, but Jessica interrupts. I just want to make sure my cousin knows what she's doing, Jessica says, her voice dropping. That she understands the implications of being seen with you. I understand perfectly, I say firmly, finding my voice. I understand that Roman is powerful and dangerous, and that being with him means my life is more complicated. I understand that people will talk and speculate and judge. I understand all of it, Jessica, and I want him anyway. But Ella, I'm not a child, I continue, keeping my tone respectful but firm. I'm an adult, making an informed decision. Roman has been nothing but honest with me about what his world looks like, and I'm deciding to be part of it, not because I'm naive or reckless, but because he's worth it. Jessica looks between us, clearly trying to figure out if I'm being coerced, or if I actually mean what I'm saying. You really care about him. I really do, I confirm, and feel Roman's hand tighten slightly on my back. Then I hope you know what you're doing, Jessica says finally. Then she leans in closer. But Ella, if you ever need anything, if you ever want out, call me, okay? No judgment, just call. I appreciate that, I say honestly, but I won't need it. Jessica nods, still looking uncertain, and drifts away to greet other guests, leaving Roman and me alone in the middle of the ballroom. You didn't have to do that, Roman says quietly. Yes, I did. I look up at him. I needed her to know, needed everyone to know that this is my decision, that I'm not some victim who needs rescuing. I'm a woman who found someone worth the risk and decided to take it. Ella Morrison, Roman says, and there's something almost reverent in his voice. You're extraordinary. I'm terrified, I correct, but I'm also sure, and that's enough. The night continues, and I meet Roman's business associates, shake hands with people whose names I recognize from news articles, smile through thinly veiled warnings and barely concealed curiosity, and through it all, Roman stays beside me, his presence a constant anchor, his hand never leaving my back. You're doing great, he murmurs during a lull in conversation. I'm faking it, I admit. So is everyone else, Roman says. The difference is you're honest about it. They just pretend better. I laugh and realize that 6 weeks ago I was invisible at a wedding, and now I'm here, visible and terrified but genuine, and it feels like freedom. Later, when we're finally alone in Roman's car heading back to his place, I let myself relax for the first time all night. Thank you, I say. For what? For letting me do that my way, for not trying to hide me or control the narrative, for just standing beside me and letting me handle it how I needed to. That's what partnership is, Roman says, his hand finding mine. I protect you, but I don't control you. There's a difference. I'm learning that, I admit, then add, I told my cousin I'm with you by my own decision. I heard. And I meant it, I continue. I'm with you, Roman Volkov, with full knowledge of what that means, of the danger and the complications and the possessive jealousy. I want all of it because you're worth it. Roman pulls the car over, actually stops in the middle of the road to look at me properly. Say that again. I'm with you, I repeat, meeting his eyes. Is that clear enough? Almost. His hand cups my face. But I need you to know what you're committing to. I need you to understand that I'm going to be possessive and jealous and completely unreasonable about sharing you. I'm going to worry every time you leave my sight. I'm going to have people protecting you even when you think you don't need it. I'm going to be intense and overwhelming and probably too much sometimes. I know, I say softly, and I'm here anyway, all of you. The intense and overwhelming and too much parts, because those same parts are what make you honest and protective and worth every complicated moment. Ella, I love you. The words come out before I can stop them. Honest and terrifying and absolutely true. I don't know when it happened. Maybe at the wedding when you sat down next to me. Maybe in the parking lot when you held me while I cried. Maybe last week when you admitted you're lonely. But somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you, Roman. And I'm telling you that now, publicly committed, no take-backs. Roman stares at me for a long moment, and I see about 17 emotions cross his face before he speaks. I love you too. His voice is rough. I've loved you since you compared the best man's speech to a hostage situation, since you looked at me without fear, since you stayed even when staying was the harder option. I love you, Ella, and I'm going to spend every day proving that you made the right decision. Then he's kissing me, and I'm kissing him back, and somewhere in the back of my mind I think about how this started, with me invisible at a wedding and him sitting down beside me, and how it's now, with both of us visible, vulnerable, and completely certain that this is worth every risk. We should probably get out of the middle of the road, I say when we finally break apart. Probably, Roman agrees, but he doesn't move. But I need another minute to process the fact that you just told me you love me. I'll say it again if that helps, I offer. I love you, Roman Volkov, possessive jealousy and all. His smile is devastating. That's definitely helping. Good. I settle back in my seat. Now take me home so I can continue being with you in private. Home, Roman repeats, and there's something soft in his voice. You called it home. It is home, I realize as I say it. Wherever you are is home now. I want that too. Roman doesn't respond with words, just starts driving again, but his hand finds mine and doesn't let go. And I realize that this is what partnership looks like. Two people deciding to be together, again and again, despite the danger and complications and overwhelming intensity of it all. Ella, Roman says as we pull into his building's garage. Yeah, thank you for staying with me. His voice is quiet, sincere. For seeing me and wanting me anyway, it means more than you know. You picked me first, I remind him. That night at the wedding, you could have sat anywhere, talked to anyone, But you picked the invisible girl in the corner, and that changed everything. Best decision I ever made, Roman says, and I believe him because we're both here, both committed to this, both willing to walk into a dangerous, beautiful future together. And that's worth every risk.
Top 3 fun facts Lena hid in the story. 1. Roman kept the napkin that dinner where he explained everything about his world. Elle was so nervous she kept folding and unfolding the napkin into origami without even noticing. She made a tiny little bird. When they left, Roman took the napkin and put it in his wallet. It's still there, crumpled, slightly torn, but it's there. Elle found out a month later and cried. He pretended he forgot to take it out, but they both know the truth. 2. Derek actually showed up at the gala for 8 minutes. Derek was invited to the gala before the wedding incident. When he saw Roman and Elle walk in, he literally choked on his champagne, tried to slip out quietly. Roman saw him, just looked at him. Derek invented an urgent medical emergency and ran out so fast he forgot his coat. The coat sat in lost and found for months because he didn't have the courage to go back for it. Elle didn't see him because Roman strategically positioned her on the opposite side of the ballroom. Ninja level protection. 103. Elle and Roman watched a romance movie together, but obviously no one can ever know this except you. Because imagine someone finding out that Roman, the most powerful man in the underworld, watched a romance. They watched Mur and Mrs. Smith. He said, okay, that one was actually good, and shamelessly admitted that it has violence and romance very efficient. Elle said, you only like it because they try to kill each other and still stay together. Roman. Exactly. It's realistic. Lena's letter. Writing Elle and Roman when I started, she had no date. I wanted to write about the loneliness we choose. Not because we lack options, but because at some point we learn that being invisible hurts less than being seen and disappointed, that watching is safer than participating, that chosen loneliness feels better than unchosen rejection. Elle was born from that painful truth, and Roman was born from the question, what if someone saw you exactly when you don't want to be seen and decided you matter anyway? What broke me while writing them was realizing that loneliness recognizes loneliness. Roman, with all his power and control, was just as alone as Elle. He simply hid it better. And when two lonely people meet and choose to be vulnerable together, something magical happens. They give each other permission to exist beyond the masks. Elle showed Roman that strength isn't the absence of emotion, that crying isn't weakness, that letting your feelings spill out because you feel too much is human, not flawed. Roman showed Elle that being seen can be safe, that true protection respects autonomy, that someone can know your scariest parts and still not leave. Writing this story forced me to confront my own invisibility. The times I chose not to show up because showing up meant risk. The times I stayed on the sidelines because participating hurts when it doesn't work out. And it made me ask, what if I let someone truly see me? What if vulnerability wasn't punishment but a bridge? They taught me that real love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone equally scared who decides to try anyway. It's saying, I'm possessive and you're too self-sufficient, and neither of us knows how to do this. But let's try, because you're worth the risk. This story is for every soul who has ever felt invisible, who chose loneliness because it seemed safer, who wondered if anyone would notice if you simply disappeared. Someone notices, and sometimes, if you're lucky and brave, that someone sits beside you without asking permission and says, I see you, and you matter, and I won't let you disappear. Elle and Roman are my reminder that connection is worth the risk. That being seen can hurt, but being invisible kills slowly. That sometimes the right person is the one who finds you in your invisibility and decides you deserve light. They deserve everything, and I hope you love them as much as I do. With all my heart, Lena P.S. This story is about courage. Not the courage of warriors, but the courage of scared people who decide to be seen anyway. It's about you. It's about me. It's about everyone who has ever been alone in a crowded room and dreamed that someone would sit beside them.